Good morning. This is Jonathan Labman, also known as John Labman, saying hello to you from Simply Awake. And to locate us in space and time, I'm in eastern Pennsylvania in the United States, about 6 miles east of the Delaware River. And today is Monday, November 4th. So I'm here to talk to you today about thinking and thought. I'm going to start a series based on my book, Being Human and Waking Up, which is available on Amazon in Kindle and workbook format. In the book, I start out by telling you that human beings don't really know what to do with thoughts or feelings. So today I thought I'd start out with talking about thoughts because I work with a lot of my clients and students to teach them about their thoughts. The first and most important thing to know about thought is it won't make you happy. The second thing is, the reason it won't make you happy is that 90 to 95% of what arises in your language-generating mind centers on the left side of the brain is false. And if you've ever seen somebody hooked up to a lie detector machine, you know if they tell a lie out loud, that machine usually registers a physiological response having to do with adrenaline. And that response will either be fear or anger or both. Kind of back and forth between fear and anger. So if 90 to 95% of your thoughts are false, and false thoughts create a physiological response when they're spoken out loud, who's to say they don't also do it when they're just generating inside your head and you're the only one listening to them? I'm here to tell you that you can reduce your suffering by 90 to 95% if you just begin to separate yourself from the thoughts that are arising in your mind. Now, there isn't anybody in there cranking them out like some kind of printing press in the old days. There's nobody typing them onto a ticker in your mind, like the ticker tape in New York's Times Square, where the headlines flash all the way around the building, if you've ever been there. So there isn't a you somehow in there creating those thoughts. They just arise. And if you let them, they arise and disappear. However, often you get glued to those thoughts and you think you are those thoughts. So instead of being separate from thought, you're addicted to thought. And that addiction to thought is what a lot of the mystical spiritual traditions are about. And it's also a lot of what psychology is about. So in my practice, I combine the spiritual and psychological tools because you're one person and they're one thing, really. And so I want to begin here telling you, if you want happiness and peace and freedom and love and truthfulness in your life, you've got to start challenging the veracity or truthfulness of your own thoughts. And the way to do that is to ask yourself a very simple question. If you notice a thought arises and you notice that it makes you anxious or angry or even sad, then you want to track it and see, hey, is this thought absolutely true? And the way I ask the question about the thought is, can I absolutely know this thought is absolutely true? And if it's not absolutely true, I think of it as a lie. And that's actually accurate. Thought as thought is only a representation of reality anyway. The five senses that we have, taste, touch, smell, sight, and sound, plus a couple more that some people add, which is proprioceptive sense, the sense of your body in space, and vestibular sense, your sense of balance in space, right? Am I falling over one way or the other? You've got all that rich sensory material coming in all the time, and it's then represented by this strange process called thought. So even to put a fine point on it, thought isn't actually true at all because it's just a representation of true experience. But thought is useful at times. The problem is we're so addicted to thought, we so much believe that we are the chattering voice in our head, that we have had no training and no perspective in how to look at our thoughts and how to determine if the thoughts are true or false. So to go back, the standard about whether the thought is true or false is, can I absolutely know this thought is absolutely true? My favorite example is somebody will say to us, "Ooh, there are aliens on the dark side of the moon. They've built invasion bases there and they're going to invade the country," right? And of course, as far as we know, that's absolute absurdity. We know of no such things. But anybody who believed that thought or tried to believe it would probably immediately go into a panic and start digging a shelter in the backyard, pouring concrete and affixing it with all kinds of supplies. So there's an obvious example, but here's a less obvious one. Oh, my spouse right now is thinking X about me, and that X is going to make my life miserable. And just fill in the blank, whatever X is for you. Well, you can't absolutely know what your spouse is thinking unless you call him or her on the phone or email or text them and ask them what they're thinking. So that thought is automatically false. Automatically false. You can't verify or validate it, and you don't really know what's happening. And that thought can make you miserable. It can create some sort of emotion that makes your day terrible. And all that's happened is you've believed a false thought that's in your mind. So I want to end this introduction to thought by saying this. If you can begin to notice what you're thinking and what it does to your mood, then you're on the way to discovering how to deconstruct that. And underneath of that, you're going to find there's a big part of your being, your brain, that's already happy, that's already at peace. And this is what all the spiritual masters call an enlightened state of being. And underneath all of the detritus of our addiction to thought and thought-based falsely based emotions, there's actually a place where we can be content and at peace, pretty much no matter what's going on in the outside world, as long as we're having our basic needs of food, clothing, and shelter met. So that's all for today. It's a decent introduction to how to work with your thoughts to uncover your natural happiness. And this is John Labman signing off for today.